Hello everyone, welcome back to Triple Play Analytics. Today is going to be kind of a special episode because it is March 15th, and that means it is the beginning of March Madness. And that is kind of what we're going to be talking about today in general. We're going to be talking mostly the analytics behind March Madness and really why March Madness is pure madness. You can't really predict a lot of things in it. So whenever it comes to sports analytics, there's always an uncertainty because you never will get anything that's 100%. No stat is going to be 100% correct. Let's take an example, baseball win probabilities. Well, this pitcher you could have, let's say, Clayton Kershaw. He could have a really high win probability when he's on the mound, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to have a bad day and get off the bat, he give up 2 home runs in the first and get chased in the third inning. His win probability that game might have been 85%. But then there's that other percent, that 15% that kind of exists where it's the 85% chance he has of winning, but here's that 15% chance of, well, you never know. The unexpected could happen, and he could have a bad game. He could, wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It's like that because, as a sports analytics, as a sports analyst, you try to quantitate everything and get everything down to the numbers and take all of the human aspect out of it and just say, all right, fact-based stuff. But then, yes, you get some rankings and some stats that are a bit more human-based, human-biased. That's a better way to say it. They're biased in that manner. So with March Madness, well, a good percent of your stats have to be human-biased because, it's a championship they're playing for. You really can't predict if a player is gonna, get cold feet and just kind of play really poorly and kind of be a detriment to his team, his or her team, since also the women's tournament is on. Or if an unknown player, maybe a player off the bench, might just go off and have a crazy good game because they're in the spotlight and they finally got something to prove. You don't know. So today I kind of want to talk about the way I kind of made my bracket. So I have, in my one normal bracket, I have multiple, but in my one normal one, I have Villanova winning. Because in my mind, they are the team to beat. Now, yes, ranking and rating-wise, UVA is much better. Well, not much better. They're ranked one above. Villanova's, in my mind, well, in professional statisticians' mind, are the number 2 ranked team in the nation and in the tournament behind UVA. However, I think that's wrong. I think UVA is actually behind Villanova just because Villanova didn't lose that many players, and also they have played the best and most consistent throughout the season. Villanova is just the most consistent, and they just have a methodical way of going through each and every opponent. That methodical method, redundant way to say it, their methodology is just it's foolproof. You can say it makes sense, but the way kind of I made mine a bit stats and human biased, as one should. But the way you kind of go through this is you got to make initially when you decide to make your stats for this, you really have to decide, okay, what percent is stats, computer, number based, and what percent is human biased. So I'm going to use 538 as an example because they are probably one of the leading websites and their staff and crew, one of the lead analytics portals for people to kind of look at. So the way they rank their men's basketball teams, they have a kind of a 75-25 way of looking at it. 75 is computer ranking, stats-based ranking, like ELO, BPI, the Ken Pomeroy stat, the Sonny Moore stat, and all that. But then they have the 25%. That's human-based. And that's what they call, they have an NCAA S curve, and they also base it off the AP and coaches' predictions and rankings. Now, the Associated Press, the AP rankings, are biased. They are not stat 100% based. And also the coaches' rankings and predictions. Those are not 100% stat based. There's a human aspect to it. So whenever they combine that, they have a kind of a two-phase thing. They first do a pre-tournament combination. So the way they describe their pre-tournament combination is kind of it's based off of injuries, win shares, how points per game per each team. It's a very long list of computations. It's very, very robust. But what makes that important is this is all before the tournament. This is before the first game, which would have been yesterday, on Pi Day, March 14th. So their pre-tournament prediction is for the tournament. They're not basing it off of the first day of the tournament. No, they're basing everything cumulatively. It moves. So whenever the first round is done, well, now they're going to make new predictions starting at the second round and include first round data. So let's just say we have the game Kentucky versus Davidson, UK versus Davidson, and UK blows them out, which, some people might expect. Where I'm from, I live in Kentucky, that might be expected. A lot of UK fans here think UK is just going to blow out Davidson, even though Davidson is, they're still a good team. They're the 12th seed in the South. So, it's like that. People think it's going to be a blowout. Other people think it's going to be a closer game. And most people think it's just going to be, a good basketball game. But UK should win by a margin of maybe, let's say, 7-8 points. It's a good win, in my mind. So, whenever Kentucky Davidson play, after that game, when Kentucky goes on to the second round, the round of 32, most stats, including 538, I believe, they will use stats, use player stats, use team stats, and use special stats or advanced stats of that Kentucky Davidson game and combine that with their pre-tournament stats to kind of take a look and see if they will beat their opponent. Their opponent will be the winner of Arizona Buffalo. And the same thing will happen between Arizona and Buffalo. Just like that. So with that, that's just baseline though. Because you have to make some sort of adjustments. Because maybe in the Kentucky Davidson game, a Kentucky superstar player gets injured. Well then, that changes the whole matchup. And if Kentucky wins, that changes the whole matchup against their potential next round opponent, which most people see as being Arizona, because Buffalo is probably going to lose that game against a juggernaut Arizona. So once that happens, the injuries, and if they win, they get a stats bonus or kind of an increase in their odds or probability. Well, then their tournament prediction, their prediction stat, their percent stat, let's say the percent of winning it all, let's say that changes, that updates. And then 538 does a special thing where they have a special power rankings they make, and their power rankings play into that stat as well. And then if there's, then there's much smaller things like, travel, arena effect. Let's say, are they going to have more fans there? Are they going to have less fans there compared to their opponent? Does it feel more like a home game or an away game? Which way are they shooting? What time of day it could be? A lot of these things can go into effect when determining the outcome and the percentage of a team winning a game or a set of games or even the whole tournament. So currently, I believe, and I'm just checking my stats right now, Villanova has the odds of winning, the highest odds of winning the tournament, 18%. Virginia, which people think are the number one team in the whole tournament, have 14%. Now, I actually have a dark horse prediction in this. I wouldn't be very surprised if UNC, who has a 5% odd according to 538, they're the number 2 in the West. They have a 5% chance of winning. I would be surprised if they won, or Kansas. Kansas has an 8% chance of winning. Now, that being said, those are all very high-ranked teams. There is, however, a team which I think deserves this win. and that is either Gonzaga or Butler. Now, Butler has to go through a much harder road than Gonzaga. Gonzaga is the fourth ranked seed in the West. They play UNC Greensboro, I think. They play in the first round. Then they'll play the winner of Ohio State and South Dakota State. Most probably Ohio State. Whenever they'll win that, I predict. Then they'll have to play either Xavier, Texas South, Missouri, or Florida State. I believe coming out of those four teams, Xavier playing Texas South and Missouri, playing Florida State, the winner of those is going to be Xavier. I put my money on the line there. Xavier has, a 70% chance of beating Missouri or Florida State. Doesn't matter who. Missouri has a 22% chance. Oh, my bad. Florida State has a 22% chance of getting to that position where Xavier is, and Missouri has an 8% chance. So I'm putting my odds on Xavier, and I do think Gonzaga is going to beat Xavier there. Then they'll most probably either play Michigan, Houston, or UNC. But I wouldn't be surprised if Providence comes out and makes it to the Final Four. But that being said, it's most probable UNC does. And I believe Gonzaga will win that. Now, the other boat is Butler. Butler, in my mind, has a much harder road. But they're Butler. They just can keep winning big games in surprising fashion. First, they go up against Arkansas. A lot of people are counting Butler out just because they're going up against a really good Arkansas team. Now, Arkansas currently, with updated stats, checked 5 or 6 days ago, Arkansas would have the edge in this matchup. But coming more closer and closer, and at the end of the tournaments, Butler has the odds to win this game. This would be an upset, because it's a 7th seed versus a 10th seed. Butler's the 10th seed. Now, it's a 2-seed difference in my mind, so it's an upset. Butler wins there. Then they'll play Purdue. They're playing... I don't even know who they're playing, but it doesn't matter. Purdue's the 2nd seed versus the 15th seed. I think that upset has happened less than 5 times. So I think Purdue is going to be winning that game. And then it'll be Purdue versus Butler. I believe Butler wins that game. And then we have Butler, when they win that game, they'll have to play either Florida, say Bonaventure, Texas Tech, or SF Austin. I believe St. Bonaventure will beat Florida, and Texas Tech beats Austin. Now, St. Bonaventure would be an upset. They did just upset UCLA. They're both even-ranked seeds, but UCLA had the odds of winning in my mind. So, St. Bonaventure will upset Florida, and then they'll play Texas Tech, but Texas Tech will continue their win streak at 1 out of 2, and they'll play Butler in the Elite 8. Then, I believe that Alabama, this is kind of like an underdog theory, let's say that. Alabama will make its way up to the Sweet 16 versus West Virginia. That means they do upset Villanova in the round of 32. Now, making it to the Elite 8 will be West Virginia and Butler. Butler will win there, make it to the Final Four, and then they'll make it to the National Championship. Now, this is all based on this all is an underdog theory based off of one stat and one stat only. It's not even a stat. It's kind of just a theory or kind of a trend I see is that Butler is very good at winning underdog games. Butler, through this whole tournament, I believe, will be the underdog against every team they play unless they play St. Bonaventure before the Elite 8. They will be an underdog against St. Bonaventure. And I'm discounting the opponents to Purdue and Texas Tech because I have a gut feeling they're going to win. The percent chance of Texas Tech and Purdue losing are both below 2%. So the only people who I think have a chance of having another major upset is St. Bonaventure, and this is in the East, the lower half of the East bracket. That being said, it's going back to the very beginning of what I was talking about. You can't say March Madness is truly madness to a statistician and to an analyst, just because we have teams like Butler. Butler is a 10th ranked team, but whenever it comes to tournament play, they play like a 3rd ranked team. A true 3rd ranked team that is unafraid and plays well. I think for the past 4 years, they've won at least one game each time they're in a tournament. That means they've had an upset at least one time. They've upset someone 4 years straight, I believe. That to me sounds like a team that is ready to take a run to make it to either the Sweet 16, Elite 8, or even Final Four, or even the championship. That being said, if we look at pure stats and maybe add a little human bias, it's going to be either UVA or Villanova. So thank you very much for watching. Until I believe the finals are on April 2nd. So from today, March 15th to April 2nd, pay attention to the NCAA March Madness in college basketball. It's going to be crazy. There's a lot of things that could happen. And we have a lot of good teams, but we have also a lot of underdog teams. An underdog I see making a good push, Butler and also Loyola. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, tweet at me, comment below, send me an email, do anything. Just try to get a hold of me and I'll answer it. So thanks, and see you guys on the flip side.